Hi, everybody. I'm Madison Holmes.
And I'm Macy Holmes.
And you're watching Home Squared.
For a second, I was like, are you going to say you're Madison Holmes?
Yes, I was
like, I don't go first in this.
I mean, I guess you could.
I could. Okay, Maddie. Today we have a very, very information-dense episode. So we're going to try and take our time and do our best. Okay, so
I'm with this. First, thanks to Dad, because Dad was actually the one
who gave us this idea.
That gave us this idea. We're recording currently on the 9th. By the time this comes out, it'll be, I think, the 11th, because they usually come out on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it was Dad who said, hey, June 4th just passed. Well, Macy, what's June 4th?
June 4th is the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God, someone's not going to like that. I mean, someone's not going to like a lot of what we're going to say today.
No.
Well, if you keep an open mind,
yes.
Do your best. Do your research. Trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Keep to your principles of that. And you should, I always say that if you trust your judgment and you trust what it is that you've done and the work that you've put in, then you should have no problem having it challenged. Right. And then, obviously, if it's challenged and you feel like there's some things that are not squaring up, then I guess you just gotta keep searching. It's what we talked about in our last episode. It's just, what are you going to do when you are misinformed, or because again, we all are, right? And so... Yeah,
I think that's one of the biggest things. Again, people also watch
our last episode's a good lead into this one, yeah.
It is a good... Well, that's because mode of attention, knowing the hemispheres is everything. Even me and Macy doing this stuff, it's like, first of all, we're going to talk with more, we're going to talk as if we know things, but we are always being opened. Half of that comes from the fact that we are doing the research. Not everybody gets we have the luxury of listening to stuff while cleaning toilets. So we get to do this research and do the deep dive. So we do talk as if there is some confidence and some certainty in the knowledge, but we're always expanding and keeping an open model. So conversations are still able to be had and able to be discerned. But for those who haven't yet learned the skill and the lifestyle of open-minded thinking and expansionary models, our show will definitely give you a run for your money if it hasn't already.
So the first thing we can start with is, obviously, we're going to be talking about Tiananmen Square. We have been doing some listening to some people that are obviously far better researchers than we are, but we are getting there, who have put in the work to kind of debunk a bit of why it's called a massacre, and they would more so deem it as something called a color revolution. Now, for people who are probably familiar with the Ukraine 2014 protests, Maidan protests, that were kind of trying to overthrow Yanukovych, then like the Ukraine on Fire documentaries and part 1 and 2, then you guys are familiar with what a color revolution is. So for those of you who don't know, a color revolution is basically like you get a bunch of young, impressionable minds, because we are the most likely to do this thing, and you try and twist them in a way. We've seen it with Black Lives Matter. You try and twist them in a way where they demand reform or they stir things up violently, so that way governments have to come in and they will either impose the problem reaction solution Hegelian dialectic process, or you get, so that can be the way of like getting your government to basically overthrow a government that maybe you don't like. So you kind of created a bit of this like color revolutionary coup, or you demand that some sort of organization come in and save the day to help you with your reforms. So that way your government will comply, or again, insert somebody else, right? So that's a bit of what a color revolution is. like I said, we've seen it with Black Lives Matter. If you've seen the Ukraine on Fire documentaries, I suggest you go there to check out how that happened with Ukraine. And
Though we should definitely give a little caveat. It's not it most of the time it starts with a natural grievance. It was
mhm,
Majit Nawaz who did a little breakdown on this, and he's done a book on um radicalization. It's called
mhm,
Radical, and he was speaking from experience too, as somebody who has been radicalized. And it starts with a genuine grievance. In the case of Tiananmen Square, there was like student protests because there were some harder times, and a lot of uncertainties during where the economics were at the time. So it starts with something real, like even Black Lives Matter, looking at racial inequality. Definitely not something we're in support of. But these movements, and they always, almost always, always get co-opted. It may
mhm.
start natural, but it does not end that way.
Yeah, it's like what happened in Germany. It's like you got like horrible economics based on going to war. So Germany was in a very uncertain place. We're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? Partly we know that was actually instigated on purpose. It's like their economic situation was brought on purpose to create that instability, because we're predicting it to happen here in the West. So if we think it's going to happen here, has it already happened in the past?
Mhm.
Well, we already make the metaphors that we reference ourselves to being like Nazi Germany. So it's like, well, why is that? And it's because they were also going through their own economic system collapse. And then where that happened was, insert Hitler, insert your problem, reaction, solution. And we actually can even maybe on another episode link to how Hitler was involved with the Tavistock Institute and also backed by Western bankers, which, if you don't know that, that'll be a fun one. But regardless, problem, reaction, solution. So it was even played out in Germany. And then when you had was, like the young, like in that movie Swing Kids or something, it was a great
Right.
example where it was like
Yeah.
the young, I guess, Nazi movement of the young kids, like hence again, young people, and they were impressionable. And then you started to Nazify them. No, I don't know if that's a word, but you started to Nazify them a bit. And then that created a large movement and what it is that you needed for your soldiers for the wars. So it's like that is an example of how that's also played out in the past as well.
Yeah, that's on the local level when you're watching, local grievances get co-opted. And then another way to, because it's layered, obviously, it's tiered to these takeovers and getting what becomes a color revolution, also known as just a coup straight up. And the reason why I say that is because when it gets co-opted, it's no longer about whatever the local grievance was that the local population was having. You get these external tentacles that come in, and then their desires and their mode of attention, their plans, their agenda starts to implement. So whether it's the resources that's in it, or and sometimes even the grievances, like Macy just said, being caused by external entities, for a bad economic system, it'll be done by bad policies. And in the case of Tiananmen Square, it wasn't necessarily, it was partly foreign implemented. By foreign, I mean things like the National Endowment for Democracy. You get the George Soroses, both the Anglo-American empire, basically.